In this episode, we'll shift from the big picture to near-term focus. You've already mapped your long-term objectives. Now it's time to zoom in on the next 90 days. You'll learn how to build a quarterly plan that transforms strategic goals into achievable steps, supported by realistic time and budget estimates.
Quarterly planning is the link between your big picture goals and your weekly execution. It turns your long-term objectives into focused 3-month targets, not vague hopes, but measurable milestones and habits that fit the rhythm of your current life. The quarterly plan consists of 2 types of items: quarterly objectives that are specific achievements tied to your long-term goals, and quarterly KPIs that represent recurring activities you track for consistency and growth. We'll discuss them further during this episode. So, how do you actually create your quarterly plan? Here are the 5 key steps we'll walk through together. Estimate your available time for the quarter. Estimate your budget for the quarter. Create your quarterly KPIs. Create your quarterly objectives. Now, let's walk through the process step by step. Start by estimating how much time you can reliably dedicate this quarter. You don't need a perfect calculation, just a realistic range based on your current life situation. Are you working full-time, studying, juggling both, caring for a family? To make this easy for you, we've prepared estimates for 5 typical lifestyle scenarios. Each gives you a weekly and quarterly free time range, along with a baseline, the portion you can confidently dedicate to planned activities like objectives and KPIs. Your baseline planning time is the number of hours you can confidently dedicate to your quarterly goals, after accounting for unpredictability, fatigue, and other things like that. That's why we don't use 100%. Even if you technically have 300 hours of free time, trying to fill all of them with planned activities would backfire, leading to burnout, rigidity, or constant replanning. So instead of using your full free time, we apply a baseline percentage. The more stable and flexible your schedule, the higher your baseline can be. If your life is unpredictable or overloaded, it's safer to plan for less.
Now, let's look at the actual scenarios. Scenario 1. Low available time. Full-time job, plus family, plus household, plus commute. Weekly free time, 5 to 12 hours. Quarterly total, 156 hours. Baseline planning time, 50%. That's roughly 80 hours per quarter. Scenario 2. Moderate time. Full-time job, but no family or university. Weekly free time, 15 to 25 hours. Quarterly total, 325 hours. Baseline planning time, 40 to 60%. That's about 190 hours. Scenario 3. Moderate to high time. Part-time job, plus university, plus flexibility. Weekly free time, 20 to 30 hours. Quarterly total, 390 hours. Baseline planning time, 70%. Around 270 hours. Scenario 4. High time. No job plus university, plus flexible schedule. Weekly free time, 30 to 40 hours. Quarterly total, 520 hours. Baseline planning time, 70%. Roughly 360 hours. Scenario 5. Very high time. No job plus no university, plus flexible lifestyle. Weekly free time, 50 hours. Quarterly total, 650 hours. Baseline planning time, 70% or more. That's 370 hours and above. These estimates don't need to be perfect, but they ground your planning in reality, helping you decide how much time you can safely dedicate this quarter.
If your situation doesn't fit neatly into one category, adjust. For example, if your work is seasonal or you travel a lot, you might subtract 10 to 20% from the totals above. And if you want more precision and already have some statistics, then you can look at your average free time over the past few months. Multiply your weekly average by 13, and then apply the 20 to 30% buffer to leave room for unexpected events. This number, your baseline planning time, is what you'll use to create your quarterly objectives and your KPIs. The next step is about estimating your quarterly budget. Just like with time, you don't need a precise calculation, just a simple estimate. If you've already defined your yearly personal growth budget, this step is about deciding how much of it you want to use this quarter.
A good starting point is to allocate 25% per quarter. So if your yearly budget is $10,000, you'd plan for $2,500 this quarter. But that's just a baseline. Some quarters may require more. For example, if you're paying for a course, certification, or travel. Others may require less. Example, even split, $2,500 per quarter. Adjusted, $4,000 in Q1, $1,500 in Q2, and so on.
You can always shift things later. The goal is to keep your plan practical, making sure your objectives and KPIs fit both your time and your financial capacity. Now that you've estimated your time and your budget for the quarter, it's time to add something essential to your planning system, your quarterly KPIs. These aren't dramatic goals or bold breakthroughs. They're something quieter, but just as important, consistent indicators of progress. Think of KPIs as the rhythm of your strategic plan. They help you keep moving even when no major milestone is in sight, like a quiet heartbeat that keeps the whole system alive. So what exactly are they? Quarterly KPIs are measurable actions that you repeat regularly, week by week, month by month. They support sustainable growth, help you maintain steady effort in key areas, and ensure that your broader strategy doesn't get buried under urgent tasks. Let's take an example. If one of your strategic directions is learning a language, your quarterly KPI might be practice French for 25 to 30 hours. That's not a one-time achievement, it's about maintaining momentum. Or, if you're focused on health, your KPI might be walk, cycle, or jog around 400 kilometers this quarter. Again, it's about staying on course, not racing to the finish line. Now here's an important distinction. While your objectives are about specific results, KPIs are about consistent effort. Objectives are transformative, KPIs are sustaining. You need both. To define your KPIs, start by identifying the areas of your life that rely on regular input. These are usually things like physical health, skill development, creative practice, or networking. If something in your strategy would fall apart without weekly or monthly attention, it probably needs a KPI. Once you've chosen those areas, create 1 to 5 KPIs per strategic direction, depending on how central they are, and make them specific. Use clear targets like hours, outputs, sessions, or distance. For example, write 5 blog posts, read 6 books, or have 3 professional check-ins. Avoid vague phrases like improve skills or be more active. Those are good intentions, but they're hard to track. One helpful approach is to set a range instead of a single number. For instance, you might say, read 3 to 5 books, or practice guitar for 20 to 25 hours. That gives you some flexibility while still offering structure. And don't worry if you don't know the perfect target from the start. You can begin with an estimate based on your past performance or your current schedule, and adjust as you go. This system is meant to evolve with you. As for time allocation, we recommend dedicating around 30 to 40% of your available planning time to KPIs. That's enough to ensure consistency without crowding out the larger objectives you'll define next. If your quarterly free time is about 230 hours, that would mean setting aside around 70 to 90 hours for KPIs, spread out across the quarter. One final tip before we move on. Whenever possible, make your KPIs quantifiable. Numbers keep things clear. Walk 400 kilometers is easier to track than be more active. Of course, in some areas, like artistic growth or emotional well-being, qualitative KPIs may be appropriate, but even there, you can often define your effort in a measurable way. For instance, complete 5 oil paintings or journal for 20 minutes twice a week.
Let's take a quick look at Jessica's quarter. These are just a few examples from her full KPI plan, but they show how clear and grounded KPIs can be. For her career development, she set a KPI to submit 1-2 gallery applications this quarter and to get featured once in a professional art publication. She's also aiming to sell 2 to 3 major works, which helps her maintain financial momentum and visibility. In creative practice, she committed to finishing 5 to 7 works in her core style, and on the side to create 1 or 2 experimental pieces, just to keep her creativity stretching. On the learning front, she plans to practice French for 25 to 30 hours, and the same for Italian, using a mix of listening, reading, and conversation. And for health, she has a simple but effective KPI: walk or cycle 375 to 500 kilometers over the quarter. Again, these are just a few of Jessica's KPIs, but each one is clear, measurable, and aligned with a strategic direction. That's the whole point: to keep long-term growth visible and consistent, even between major milestones.
KPIs are not just data points. They're a way of staying in touch with your goals, of making sure your growth doesn't depend on bursts of motivation, but on structure, rhythm, and steady attention. In the next step, we'll zoom in on your quarterly objectives, the focused, transformative outcomes that will give your quarter its shape. Now it's time to define the key accomplishments you want to reach in the next 3 months. Your quarterly objectives. Quarterly objectives are usually smaller parts of your long-term objectives, the parts you can realistically complete over the next 3 months. They help you make focused, visible progress without overwhelming yourself.
Unlike KPIs, which track ongoing performance and habits, objectives are one-time achievements, clear milestones that mark a step forward. So, while a KPI might be right for 3 hours a week, an objective would be, finish the first draft of my book.
KPIs build your habit and help achieve sustainable growth, while the objective is more of a breakthrough that moves you forward. To keep your plan both focused and realistic, aim to dedicate about 30 to 40% of your available time this quarter to quarterly objectives. So if your estimated free time is around 234 hours, that would mean roughly 70 to 94 hours spent on completing your chosen milestones. Just a reminder that you'll allocate a similar amount, another 30 to 40%, to your KPIs and leave the rest as flexible time to manage unexpected tasks or go deeper when needed.
Let's examine a few examples from Jessica's quarterly plan. For her long-term goal of collaborating with a professional gallery, her quarterly objectives are to research and shortlist 3 or 4 galleries, prepare a polished portfolio and artist statement, and submit at least 2 gallery applications by the end of the quarter. For her goal of creating a sustainable income from art, she plans to choose an online platform for selling artwork and upload 5 curated pieces with high-quality images and descriptions. And to support her goal of exploring new techniques, she's studying 1 new Renaissance-inspired method and creating 2 experimental artworks with it. Each of these objectives is specific, realistic, and aligned with her long-term goals. And together, they represent the progress she's choosing to make this quarter.
There's another important point. It is highly recommended to document your quarterly plan in a simple format, just enough to keep your planning structured and easy to review. You don't need anything fancy, just a way to record the essentials. What periods this plan covers, for example July to September. The strategic direction each KPI and objective supports, what exactly you're aiming to achieve, including your targets and success criteria, and a short comment for context, if helpful. You can use a basic table or text template to keep it organized. Some people also like to track changes over time, noting when they adjust an objective or update a target. If that sounds useful to you, add a small change log with dates and version numbers. It's a simple way to stay clear about how your plan is evolving. Again, the point isn't to overcomplicate things. Just create a lightweight system that keeps your plan visible, focused, and flexible.
So to wrap up, today we explored the process of quarterly planning. It builds directly on your long-term plan by breaking it down into what's actually doable this quarter, keeping you aligned with your strategy while staying flexible. Quarterly planning is about creating your quarterly KPIs and objectives. KPIs are about consistency. They track habits, routines, and ongoing performance. Objectives are about progress. They focus on one-off achievements and key milestones. Together, they ensure that you're both growing steadily and accomplishing meaningful goals. In the next episode, we'll dive into weekly planning, where your quarterly plan is translated into weekly tasks, and your execution becomes more dynamic, yet aligned. See you there.